Uh, I had a question in the chat. Curious about if we need to have Facebook accounts. If you do not want to make a Facebook account, even if it's like literally an anonymous account, then you'll have to that's where we're going to be posting most images. Oh, here we go. I forgot the protocol. If you don't have a Facebook account, you don't want to make one, you're really adamant about it for some reason, you can go onto the Google Drive and look at images there, and then you could email those students and CC me. Kind of like it's not a public forum, but it's still feedback. So I've had in 3 years that I've had the class, I've only had one person do that. It's just a lot simpler just to make a fake account, or not a fake account, a bogus account, just for the class use. I don't know why this happened twice. I thought I downloaded the zip file twice, and Chrome is like thinking I'm leaving the website. Download ready, and then it disappears. Okay, did not download.
To download multiple
files? Sorry, can you repeat that?
Is it asking for permission to download multiple files?
No, I was just zipping the folder. I just don't know if this is full screen or not. Let's see. View. Oh, it's pretty close to full screen, so this could just work, just looking at the previews. There are a few people that did not upload an image file. They uploaded a Photoshop file. Jillian and Julia. So if you could.
I think I also uploaded a Photoshop file.
Or, yep, you're correct. Yeah, so if you guys want to export, save as an image, upload that.
Somehow the Photoshop file still opens in its preview.
Yeah, we can still get the preview. That's true. In the past, I don't think that was the case. Even some PDFs are hard to preview for some reason. Anywho, with all the weird glitchiness we've got going. Yeah, invitation to the Facebook group was sent via email, and the link is on both places on our class website. So if you don't know where it's at, that would tell me that you've not been reading your email and you've not been looking at the class schedule. So yep, just got to check on those. And I just want to review real quick our process for giving feedback. I'm not sure how many people have checked this out yet or not. So on the project page, I list, this is the first time we're doing it too. I list kind of everything in detail, so you could always review it here. So this primarily is kind of stuff for Facebook, because you guys will do that on your own. Facebook comments are kind of like a follow-up to what we've talked about in class. So usually it's more helpful to talk to other people in the class, because if you comment on somebody else's that's like from a different class, they might have already gotten that feedback, you know. And I kind of go in depth about making sure everybody's not just commenting on one person, you know. Even people that might have had some struggle getting to where they are, like they still deserve some feedback. So kind of notate on there. But in terms of today, this also applies to the Facebook feedback. When we're giving feedback, and this is kind of like general rule of thumb for like life in general. I mean, firstly, you have to assume that people are ready for feedback. A lot of times you might just go up to somebody and, you know, give them some negative specific feedback, and they probably won't appreciate it. So, but I mean, in this case, in class, we are all meeting together for feedback, so it's already expected. There's like 4 types of feedback. So when we're talking in class, it's just good to be aware of the different types and try to comment correctly. It takes practice. You know, a lot of times the first time you're talking about art, it's going to be like, oh, I really like this. It's cool. That's unspecific. It's positive, but it's unspecific, meaning it's not really advancing the image at all. So I guess that's kind of like the struggle of this exercise, is to learn ways to give more meaningful feedback. So you want to be focusing on positive specific. You know, I really like this. It's cool because the color scheme is working well, or, you know, give a reason. Same thing with negative specific. You know, you don't want to just say, oh, that image is shit because it has brown on it. That's kind of negative specific, right? Oh, negatives. Oh, this was supposed to say unspecific. My mistake. Maybe I should tweak that before I forget. Because I will forget. It's a very minuscule thing. Unspecific. Cool. So let me get back to that. So yeah, you want to, it's basically just, we're trying to be specific. And reasons why, right? And usually the process that you go like verbally ends up being more natural than it will be when you go to do your Facebook feedback. So I'm here today to kind of like corral you guys into giving feedback. So I'm not gonna comment as much as I can. I'm just keeping track of your guys' comments. for like participation. But I will also take a lot of time to go through your comments on the Facebook feedback and give suggestions. And generally, like, everybody doesn't do very well on the first round. I don't know why. Like, all the directions are here. Maybe it's just like you really gloss over these and you're not paying attention or something, but it is pretty simple. You're just kind of answering these points, being specific. So does anybody have questions on this? I take like ample time to discuss it because if I don't, then there's not much specific feedback happening. Oh, this is cool. That's great. Oh, okay. I don't have my, can I use my shortcut keys? Probably won't remember. There we go. I didn't take roll because I was printing that. Let me just see how many people we have. 17. Okay. So yeah, you all give like generally in the past, I've made this exercise being like, here, present your work. We'll discuss it for a little while and what we think it means and this and that. However, this is the first project, so it might be helpful just to discuss your own work really quick, like a brief commentary. As I mentioned before, like, like 30 seconds to a minute. Like, this is basically your statement, and then we'll have about 4 minutes per person. I'll try to warn us all before that so we can wrap up in time, so we have enough time to cover everybody. So yeah, in reality, we're just all going to be giving as much feedback as we can. If you know that you're being really adamant about giving feedback, like you've been talking a lot, it might be good to just try to be a little bit more silent and allow other people to talk. But yeah, if I can get everybody to put on their webcams as well, because this is a day for discussion. And we'll get started. So I'm just going to go top down here. Do you guys think it'd be helpful if you shared your screen with your image, or if I just show it?
I think it'd probably be best if you just show it.
Because at the same time, like, you won't be able to point things out with your mouse, but we'll see how it goes. Okay. So we got, wait for some more people here. Get some webcams going.
I have to switch to my laptop, so I'll join again in a minute.
Oh. Okay. I think you guys can use Zoom on your phone too, even. Like, just have like a...
It is a pain though, and it takes a ton of battery. It's like, it's
Sounds about right. Not very optimized. Okay, I'll let Julia and Thomas figure that out, and then we got somebody else coming, but we'll start out with Alan's. So yeah, again, we'll everybody should just, be given our attention. Alan can give us a brief overview, and then just open for feedback. So the only one thing I will mention is that I want to try for us to have dialogue, and maybe like when somebody's talking and they're wrapping up what they're saying. I don't know if this will work, but maybe like you could put your hand up like you're gonna talk next. The only reason is then not everybody's gonna talk over each other and be confused. I think that might be, like a signal. I don't know. I mean, you kind of do that in person anyway, right? So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, the one thing I was mentioning before is like if you've already given a lot of feedback, but you do want to mention something, you could always put it in the chat too. Kind of reserve audio for other people. Cool. So take it away, Alan. Can you guys see the full screen right now, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my work is about the unknown elements in our life. Also fear. I think people always like generate like a fearful feeling towards the things that are unknown. So I use a darker and dimmer elements in my project to represent the fear and the mysterious feeling of the unknown. And and the lights, the guy's holding a lamp, and I think if you can, like, I don't know how to say it, it's like if you can like
I mean, that's a pretty good description. You don't have to tell us
yeah,
every component, because then it'll just take a long time to describe it.
yeah.
So yeah, what do you guys think? What are you seeing here? How does that compare to what Alan's talking about?
I really like the colors
Thank you.
and like the moodiness of it and the shadows. I think is really cool.
Thank you.
I would just like to point out, I think the color grade is a little dark for me. Like I appreciate what you're trying to do, but maybe lighten it up like a little bit.
Okay.
I think the way you have the city kind of like off on that, like, is it supposed to be a rock or something?
Yeah, it's like a cliff.
Yeah, I think that looks really cool.
Thank you.
I think you did a good job of blending the images together well, because it helps pull together the concept better.
Thank you.
Overall, I like the unified look of it, with a lot of like Photoshop collages. It's easy to have a bunch of different elements that look different, but this has like a general look that it all looks the same. It all looks like it belongs together in one image, and from my experience, that's hard to get.
I think overall your image looks great. I think one issue that I do have is that like little bleak of light towards the bottom, because it drags your focus away from what's going on like at the top of the image down over there, where you're just not really seeing too much of what you're trying to display. And it's not like too big of a deal, because you do like your eyes will like flit around to where all of the light sources are, but just it's a little weird looking at everything going on up top and then just being focused on the bottom when there's not much.
Yeah.
I agree with Julia about I think you could, I guess, change the the light. Like you could change the amount of light each one has. Like the one near the boat, you could make that a little bit dimmer, and so there's at least some sort of hierarchy. And yeah, from small to big.
Okay. Thank you for your advice. Oh, that's a lighthouse, by the way. Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is all pretty good feedback so far. Yeah, I think that one comment was about it being too dark. I don't think it's specifically too dark. I mean, yeah, I would agree that there would be nice to have some more midtones, you know, in different areas. But I think the overall consensus in my opinion is like there's too much like of this gamma blending or transparency kind of maybe things going on where everything's just washed out. So I think that what that does is it just kind of takes away the authenticity, you know, of it. So I think if you work to just kind of work on that color a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Sweet. Cool. Let's keep it trucking here. Arjuna.
What I wanted to deal with was the myth of Sisyphus and how it relates to our regular life, in that, you know, everyone exists doing menial tasks, but there is stuff that you can find joy in through meniality and the everyday. I don't know, should I keep going? I don't really have much to say about it.
No, I mean, if you have a short description, if there's any like very pertinent things to talk about that, you know, maybe your focus was to do this one thing that you haven't done yet, or you don't have to. I'm just.
Oh yeah, there is a couple things that I've been changing slowly but surely, and it's been taking me a while to figure out exactly how to do it. I've been doing an overlay on the boulder to make it appear like menial work, like paperwork and phones and computers, stuff like that. I've made Sisyphus smaller and kind of drawn the attention more to, what I'm doing currently is drawing the attention more to the background in the cityscape.
Cool.
So the myth goes he's pushing a boulder up the hill, right? And it keeps going down.
Yeah.
I would expect the hill to be steeper, but that would also interrupt, you know, it would block the view of the city behind it. Trying to figure out ways that you can go about that. You say you're adding effects to the boulder, so I won't really comment on the, you know, the collage look, but overall it's pretty good.
I just want to say I like how the whole city aspect kind of ties into like that everyone is doing like a monotonous task idea there. So like I feel like when I see the city, everything, it reminds me of just like everyone there, and then I feel like it ties in really well. That's what I'm trying to say.
I just have like one small criticism. I feel like the buildings that are kind of in the foreground, they aren't blended super well. Like they kind of just look like their images laid on top of each other. So I'm not sure how you could make them look a little bit more cohesive. But I think that would help your image. Other than that, I think it's great.
I think maybe adding on to what someone said before with the mountain hill, I think the way that you have it now the boulder is kind of in some ways obscuring part of the hill. So at least for me as a viewer, it's a bit difficult to understand that what you're trying to show is that he's pushing the boulder up the hill. Maybe you could move the hill to the right side of the page so that it would be a bit less obscured by the boulder, so it would be more clear as to what the action that is going on is.
Yeah, that's good. Good advice. What do you guys think of use of tools?
It looks most like it's mostly cutouts from what I can tell. If there's any blending or any other effects, I can't see it at the moment. But he said he's working on it, so I won't judge him too harshly.
I do recognize like some texture, like in the hill and in the guy holding the rock. And it looks like it's been maybe sharpened a little.
Yeah, in general, do you guys have any thoughts towards, maybe different uses of tools that he could try to implement?
Maybe like blending, or maybe he could play around with the tones of the colors.
I think you could play around with some blurs and maybe add a little bit of depth to his image.
Like blur some of the background out?
Yeah, like blurring on like the farthest layer out, so like on the Empire State Building layer, so like you can throw a blur on that so it appears further.
Yeah, potentially. He did mention he was trying to put more focus on the background, so I'm not sure where he would, lay in that. But yeah, I think that would be a good way to lead your eye, at least, to certain areas.
Some of the buildings have blue tint, whereas others have more of a yellow or a green. You can probably mess with the tint so that it looks like it's, in the same area.
Cool. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. We'll have Bay.
So my image is kind of exploring how we need trees to kind of survive here on Earth. So I put a tree in outer space with the Earth nestled in there. Currently what I'm working on is not in this image because I saved this photo before I did this, but I'm on the left side. I'm taking those branches out and replacing them with branches from other pictures that have leaves on them. And then the ones on the right side are going to stay there. And then I'm going to go in on the earth and play with colors a little bit to make one side greener and the other side more brown, kind of going along with where the leaves are.
I don't think you mentioned like what the whole image is about.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, sorry, I was like zoning out then.
I can repeat myself, I don't mind. It's how the earth needs trees in order to keep life on there.
Totally, yeah.
I think the way you laid out your image, I think it's a great use of the space. I think my only critique would be that your background is very bright in comparison to how dull both the tree and the earth look. So it's kind of difficult to focus on the tree and the earth when there's a lot going on in your background. And it looks nice, but it's just so bright and overly saturated in comparison to how the tree is black and white and the earth is very dull. The colors aren't as vibrant as you would expect them to be.
Yeah, I feel like when I add the leaves on there, that might help with that a little bit because it'll cover more of the background. But definitely I'll keep that in mind and maybe play around with the saturation of the background a bit towards the end.
So what is the use of space doing for this image?
Well, I mean, currently not as much of the background's covered in this image as it will be, because there aren't all the leaves on there. But as soon as I have it in the Photoshop document that I'm working on, but it's not in this picture, and it does help to kind of fill up the space a little bit more.
Well, I'm wondering in terms of like why space and not
Oh.
a beach inside of a house, or like what's the context of space?
Yeah. So I wanted to use like the planet Earth, and so from there I just kind of thought like outer space, instead of having like the Earth on Earth, kind of. So that's where that idea kind of came from.
I think it's really cool that you're trying to combine the themes of, things that are within Earth with things that are, part of the solar system. So I think if you're able to blend all that, it's really like ambitious. And I think that's really cool. You're trying to tackle that because it's not easy to blend, bright purple with, the earthy tones. But I think, once you work on it and really do it, I think it's going to turn out really well.
Thank you.
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh God, my headphone was broken earlier. Sorry about that. I was trying to say is like one thing I could notice you could emphasize on the tree barks more than like it really is. So it has like a more darker outline, so it's more easier to take a look at. And also, you could also try like, here's another idea, for instead of like flowers or like anything leaves, you could like attach little lens flares at the tip of the branch to represent, like it reaches out towards the stars or something like that. Like just give it like a little nice off look to it.
It's a cool idea. Yeah.
And we're about wrapped up, but I do want to comment the one thing I'm picking up on, and I think I mentioned to you this before, but the Earth and the tree end up having this kind of drop shadow on space, which is a pretty interesting effect because space isn't flat, right? And so you're kind of transforming this vastness of space into literally just that, like it's just space, rather than like the expansiveness of space. But you are also illustrating it's not just black with dots, right? You are kind of insinuating there's other things going on. So I'm almost interested too, like, could you be utilizing other kind of spatial components, maybe very vaguely, that could be blending into that background? Because you do have multiple components of like, Earth, the physicality of that going on in the foreground. So, maybe.
Yeah, that was something I'd kind of thought about, is putting other like planets or other stuff back there. But I think that'll come later after I have like the tree and Earth all
Yeah, and it doesn't have
done.
to be the focal point. It doesn't have to. You could have it be encompassing the entire background and be blended very faintly or something, where it's just giving some kind of aura of some other thing in space, not really like, oh, the moon's there, I'd encourage you to play around with the different options.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with this one. Brad?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So my theme was kind of like how, like, when we play video games, we kind of like live in that world. and from my sketches, it kind of came together into this, where I have like a guy and it's like his limbs are like like a mouse and keyboard, and then because that's how you can control like the player, and then you had like the monitor because that's what you see through, and then I kind of have like a bunch of like building size like consoles and controllers like buried into the sand into the background.
I'm forgetting the name of it, but there was this video game I played when I was little, and it has like that same track, and then you have like this neon car. It's like this racing game thing. I cannot think of what it's called, but like your picture just made me feel nostalgic about it for some reason. Like you're on like a racetrack.
One thing at the bottom of the PlayStation, there's that like white line. It kind of stands out a lot. I'd say maybe use like a brush tool or something to darken it a little bit, so to blend it in a little more with like the grass.
Yeah, what happened was when I was rendering the like the red color over the PlayStation, and you could see it in the sky too, like right on the horizon. There's like a white line. I couldn't figure out how to get that off, so I was trying different things. But yeah,
you could probably do a layer mask and then use like a black paintbrush to blend it in.
yeah, I'll try that and draw over it.
I had a similar issue and I used the layer mask and that helped a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was like trying to like rearrange the layers kind of to like make it go away, and then that wasn't helping. So yeah, that might help a lot.
What do you guys think of the use of color?
I like the. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, because it's not lighting my face up. So I like the red overall and the kind of atmosphere it lends to it. But I think the vignetting around the sides kind of crushes the background a little bit to where it gets hard to make stuff out. Like if I hadn't seen it before, I don't think I'd really be able to recognize what exactly the landscape is. And I think that there'd probably be some ways to keep that red and the darkness and the vignette around the edges, but still just make it a little bit easier to identify what's going on in the background. And then it could draw some more attention to the consoles, like the graveyard back there too.
So what colors is he using right now?
Was that a question for everyone?
Yeah.
He's using red. I'm trying to figure out what that means. Kind of think the sky is falling.
So he's using this very like unrealistic red, and that tone is kind of casting over most of the image. Yet the grass is still green, and the shirt's still white, and the pants are still blue. Anybody have any thoughts on what that's doing for the image?
It's probably like drawing emphasis toward like the centerpiece while like averting our attention from like the older console. Because I'm sorry, kind of like toned out earlier, but his theme was basically like saying like how people are moving, like gamers are moving on from older consoles to newer consoles, like the PC gaming, right?
Something along those lines.
Yeah, so it's basically drawing emphasis being like, oh, we're moving past all of this. Don't worry about the back. Look at me right now. So it kind of like gives off that kind of feel. I'm guessing, like if that's what you kind of go for, though.
I don't know how I feel about the red. I feel like it kind of makes your concept a lot more sinister than I think you're trying to make it out to be. I think there are maybe other visual effects that you could use, but I don't know, it just kind of looks weird to me with how Bernard mentioned that you have so much red, especially the sky, and like toning on the consoles and everything, but then the grass is green, and you can see that the grass is green, and then you can also see how white and blue the pants are. It just kind of doesn't really tie in. So maybe instead of such a vibrant red, you could look at other ways of trying to make the centerpiece a lot more
Yeah, I was.
visually appealing.
Yeah, I was. I'm not really happy as the guy is right now because I just feel like he doesn't like fit with the rest of the image. So I'm still looking on ways to experiment and
Well, I think you're
kind of
dealing with
see.
a lot of symbolism here, more so than like some kind of fantastical imagery. I mean, if it were more fantastical things, you know, you would have to have a reason why there's this spotlight behind him, and you know why. If the sky is red, that's going to be casting red on the grass, and then the grass wouldn't be green, right? So you're kind of focusing more on symbolism. Well, is there a symbolism of why the grass is remaining green? If not, then maybe you need to blow that out, and maybe it's purple or something, you know, or some kind of tone that blends well with red. The last point that I'll make so we can continue here is the first thing I noticed is that everything's like slanted one way, and I don't know exactly if there's any reason for it, because like the Xbox looks like it's going to fall on him, so to speak. Not really, but like towards him, whereas the other consoles are not. So it kind of makes the Xbox look a little bit more like concerning for some reason. So I don't know what the logic is. Maybe you could add, you know, like the wind's blowing that way, you know, kind of like over time, like this dust and sand and stuff is blowing them all. I don't know. And then the last thing is that as we look back, it's all still kind of like modern consoles. So if you wanted it to be like this progression through time or something, you might want to have a little bit more visibility in the background of like older things, right?
Right. Right.
Because it all looks like within the past, you know, 3 years or 4 years or something. So, okay, let's keep on going here. We got Daniel.
Okay, so the idea for mine was kind of about how people can get very like obsessed with technology, and it can become like a whole different like reality to them to take over like what's going on like in their like actual lives. And that was the kind of general idea for all this.
I really like how the colors are still blended, even though it's such different objects. Like even the mountains, I'm seeing some purple in there. I think color-wise, it's super good.
Thanks.
I agree. I also like how all the colors in the image really work together very well. I think your color your color manipulation is like on point, and everything really works together, and I think it ties it together and gives it like a nice cohesive feel.
I think the way that the like VR cord is going off into the sky, it kind of seems like he's being controlled by some like other power sort of thing. So I don't know if he did that on purpose, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea behind that.
I really enjoy the vaporwave motif as it like really plays into the digital theme that you're going for.
Yeah, I thought it would be something that would be like pretty recognizable to like use as imagery.
What do you think about that? The vaporwave. What do you think's the most successful integration, and what he could do further with that?
I guess
like
on the tree,
Oh yeah. I was sorry. That was for Arjuna.
on the tree, I think there could be more application because I see it like within the little hole. I think that the mountains are well placed, and I like that on the left-hand mountain it's vaporwave, and on the right mountains it's true. It's like it's natural looking. and I think that the sun is a little much. I like it though. Like I'm conflicted. But yeah, I think the tree could do, like, if you're gonna keep on working with that motif. I'm confused. It's like the weird little circles you got going on the tree. What those are?
Like at the top of the tree.
On the trunk, there's like these little circles.
Oh,
of,
those are from Animal Crossing. That's the design.
Yeah. Yeah, I took the tree from Animal Crossing and then turned like the upper part where all the like branches and leaves are to look realistic.
I think one thing that's worth talking about maybe is use of colors is pretty well leveled, right? Like it's pretty, like the weight is pretty much unified across the image, except for that sun. And so I'm curious what you guys think might be a good way where he could further embed that sun, or some other alternative.
What you could do is like make the sky into like a tile looking block so it looks more digital. So it can also fit with like the slant slide sun as well. Sorry, did I came out too much? Still.
The one thing that is kind of bothering me is like the sizes of the trees. Like it doesn't feel like, just like based on like how the path is getting smaller like into the distance, it doesn't look like the trees should be that small, or like the tree that the guy's climbing into should be, I feel like it should be larger.
I agree with the trees part. But if you wanted, maybe you could like tilt it so we would be looking at it from like a farther perspective. So maybe that could be a reason to go along with why the trees are small, or to possibly make them larger.
Yeah, the reason I kind of made the trees a little smaller is because I didn't want to detract from like what's going on in the background, and I felt like if I made it bigger, it would like cover up too much.
Okay, cool. This is all good feedback. Yeah, and we're getting an ample amount of feedback. So one thing to consider, it's kind of challenging to do, is avoid asking too many direct questions, because I think this is a point now where we don't need like necessarily all the reasoning of why they do stuff, but also to try and avoid like retorting to somebody's feedback. And not that it's a huge deal, but I guess, you know, if you want the most feedback, then you should also allow, you know, the most people to talk that they can. It is challenging, but I guess we're just really fighting time. So that's why I mentioned these things. The last thing I was hoping somebody would draw out on is that the sun, you know, colors the sun. The color of the sun changes, like you know, the atmosphere of the surrounding components. So I find it interesting that we're looking at, like, I keep being drawn to the sun because it's slightly not quite optical, but it's got a very graphical design component to it, and it's the only part that has like orange and brighter, I don't know, contrast of pink. So what might be interesting to do is play around with like an aura that might be affected, you know, affecting the clouds or the sky, you know, have it kind of blend outward or something, or some colors onto the mountains, or simply maybe just to change the color of that to be blending with the other components. I'm not sure. I think there could be a lot more you could do with the sky and clouds. So that's why I was trying to coax it out of you guys.
Can I add on to that real quick?
Yeah.
I think if you use some of the colors from the sun into like and put that into like the tree trunk where the dude is stepping into, I think it might help with like the feeling of being drawn towards the sun instead of towards part of where the main focus is.
Yeah, and to further that too is you're almost seeing the sun through like a channel, right? So if the sun were to be casting a light, you guys can see my mouse, right? If it were casting a light, you could kind of just focus where the light's going to be. So it might be like starting, here and then like maybe, there, or I don't know. You could kind of play around with the mountains a little bit to focus the light in that way. But yeah, you could potentially just have like a spotlight casting on this character that could help direct your eye. Okay, cool. Whose is this? I only have first names. Anybody? I don't know. I don't have anybody in this class with that last name, so I guess we're skipping.
Gabriel.
Is this Gabriel's?
Gabriel Aquino.
I don't think we can hear them. It says they're unmuted, but we don't have any sound.
Yeah, this interface is a little weird for me because I'm still learning names and like I see all of your images, right? But it doesn't say your name over top of your image unless you're speaking. So it's hard for me to even know like which one is Gabriel. Well, we'll see if he can get his mic going if he's here. Kind of keep going here.
He's here.
Yeah, I'm just saying like if he can hear us, if he's got his mic going or not. Okay, Hang.
Okay, what I'm trying to do here was like a city landscape during the nighttime and how it's like without like the absence of stars, like the lights from the city replaces those. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
What's that supposed to be in the very back? Is that like the sun or like a star?
It's just probably represent like one of the glaring lights that coming from like a. I wasn't trying to do a sun. I accidentally like forgot. Like I don't know how to change the color between lens flare. I might go back and like like put an optical lens over it or something like that to change the color to like a more bluish color. But
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
I'm not sure if that's totally clear what you want it to be. So I feel like if you do something with that to make it more clear. I don't really know how you would do that with what you're trying to do, but I think that might help your image a little bit.
Yeah, Hang, what's the general feeling that you're trying to like instill on the viewers?
More like a wow factor.
Okay, because right now it feels pretty ominous. Like you don't quite know what's going on, but it looks important.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I'm sorry.
yeah, so it's kind of got the wow factor, but usually a wow factor is like when you can acknowledge what's going on, and then it becomes like, oh, this is a very bright explosion, or but I think it's interesting to look at. It's just I think just following Bay's comment. It doesn't necessarily need to be that we know what's going on, but then you probably would be shifting like your propose or your statement over time, if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm just like missing like a lot of stuff on the side. Like it's mostly empty space though. I've just been messing around with the filters for the past few days and like, testing some stuff out.
I see that you have like this squiggly path at the bottom, and I think it'd be really cool if that was highlighted because it would add some dimension. Because one thing I do notice is it looks like there's like a body of water and you can see like 3 levels, which is really cool. So it'd be cool if you put something on the bottom so it looks like there's something underneath as well.
Yeah, I got you.
Regarding the rainbow effect that's happening stemming from the center of the image, is that supposed to be, probably shouldn't be asking questions, from the light? Because the way that light interacts with moisture, you might get rainbow. So if that is water, I can, I see
Yeah.
what you did there.
Yeah, it is it is a light source.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we don't quite know what's going on, but that we do have all these very peculiar kind of components, because it does give this feeling like of standing in a street looking down some kind of street, but again, could be very dreamlike, right? Like we can't really tell what city, we can't tell what's happening in the dream, what's happening to you as a viewer. I am kind of curious what this little square rectangle thing is in the bottom.
Oh, that was supposed to be a boat, but I somehow messed up on like the coloring because like I kind of want to do a gradient flow from like like the front side to be more lighter than the back side, but for somehow it kind of like opt out of it and it became like too light, so it too transparent, so it started fading through everything. I'm still working on to fix that part.
Okay, yeah, if it's going to be something like that, you might want to just make sure you're paying attention to where at that content is, because you kind of have it in the foreground, right? But and I'm getting that sense that it's in the foreground because we have buildings on the left and right that are right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it does look kind of small where it's currently at, versus like if you were to move it, halfway down further, the scale might make more sense. You know what I mean? But cool. Yeah, let's keep moving here. Anthony.
Oh dear. I was originally going to go for some religious imagery, but that didn't work out too well. But I still wanted to get the idea of what is, or rather what isn't, love. One of the prime examples that is an abusive relationship, and sometimes they mess with you in a way that makes you think that it's your fault. That somehow by being in their good graces for one moment, even one moment, you should be grateful. And anything bad that may happen to you is your fault, as you may see with the plethora of arms and hands pointing at the person falling.
I kind of feel like the fact that the person that everything's pointing at is like a lower resolution than the rest of the image kind of like is giving me a weird effect, like drawing me more towards the hands than the person.
I believe it's because he's moving.
That is a
Although I
good
can
point.
see your point, because if he's falling and hands are supposed to be pointing at him, then the hands should be moving as well.
I think maybe an effective strategy for the lettering would be to alternate the hands as opposing to have all on one side and then all like flesh color on the other side.
Okay. Yeah, that would look better. Thank you.
Also, he does kind of blend into the background because he's wearing dark clothing. So my eyes, it was kind of honestly hard to find him when I looked at it first. So any way to kind of highlight him more, because I feel like he's like the central part of this, how the hands are affecting him. I would just, I don't know whether that'd be a brightness thing or just changing the color of him to make him look more prominent.
I can probably replace him with a better image, because it's also possible that, as what someone said, it's a lower resolution anyway, so it's not just the blur effect that's going on. So I can try reducing. I can try reducing blur and upping the highlights, if not replace the person.
With the background, the image of the face, I think it's not doing exactly what you want it to, because if you're trying, like, there's like a faint image of the face right behind I recognize it as Master Hand from the Wii, Super Mario Bros. But if you have that image of the face behind, I think it's better to leave it out, because the hand is like the more prominent element that you're using as the stand-in, and so having this face personalizes it too much, I believe. Then like hands are like the stand-in for like the abusive partner, and having a face there kind of makes it a little ambiguous, the imagery that you're trying to put across.
Okay, I'm just writing all the responses down.
Yeah, and you could always listen to the clip later as well. The one thing that I pick up on right off the bat, well, not right off the bat, after a few seconds of looking, I end up being more focused on what this being is in the background. Right?
Literally, or what it's supposed to mean, because that's Michael from The Good Place.
Well, I mean, without the context, I mean, unless you have the name defined like in your statement of the project, the context is kind of lost, at least for people that don't know. So as it stands, it just looks like this somewhat ominous, like, but he looks like he's happy. And then it almost looks like, because of his scale, the hand almost seems like it might be his hand, other than it's like turned, it's on the wrong side of his body. It would be more on the other side. But I don't know exactly what's going on with that, because it kind of seems like the hand is dropping this person. But I do find that there's an interesting like, it seems like you have a lot of focus on what's going on here, but I think like the connection between the background and how that's connecting, it doesn't even have to have direct meaning. It's just like, could this be this mysterious component? Yeah, but I think giving a little bit more focus on like how you're integrating that could be helpful towards the whole image, because it also almost looks like this cloud of smoke here. It almost looks like he just fell in through like a portal or some kind of weird thing, because this is like a rift in the clouds almost.
Are you referring to the light behind the hand?
No, I'm referring to like this break in the clouds.
Yeah, that was just the image.
Yeah. So what I'm kind of getting at is like, if he were like rotated a little bit so that he's over here instead, that would give more of this illusion that it's utilizing this cloud as that's where he came through. Like, not that you need to. I'm just kind of like building up your mind in terms of how that background's playing into the foreground. If that makes sense. Just trying to like clarify that there seems like there could be a lot more going on with this like mysterious character in the background. I don't know.
Yeah, I was spent a lot of time struggling how to, well, figuring everything out.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, we have time
Yeah.
still to play on stuff, and
I'll
yeah,
get better eventually.
yeah, and again, keep in mind the next project will be really focusing on type. So, you know, if you feel like you're struggling with that, or it's not working in your favor, because this project is really kind of just playing around with effects and blending and creating an interesting image. You don't necessarily have to read into it. If you want to have that ability to read into it, you can. I'm just referring because you're the first, I think, that's used a bunch of type. So you could forego that if you chose. It doesn't, you know, it's not up to me though. Just highlighting that component that the next project's going to be focusing on type. Julia.
Hi. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I'm still working on mine, but I did have a background, but I need to fix part of the background because it didn't work right. So I'm having one question that I do have is I'm having trouble with the like hand pieces for the virtual reality. I don't know how to integrate that without kind of ruining the hand areas. But also my project was kind of looking at how video games and like virtual reality in video games have become a more prominent factor of life for a lot of people, especially following like the 2020 pandemic and how a lot of people had their, you know, experiences, like personal experiences in life kind of shifted towards the virtual or online world.
I find it interesting that you chose this image in particular to and have like the divine side be filled with game characters, because I know it's supposed to be called Creation of Adam, but some people's take on it is that due to the shape that this figure is in, it's more so the human is creating the other beings. So it would make perfect sense that they're these virtual characters that we created for ourselves, and Adam in this case is wearing a headset to interact with them.
Honestly, I like the consistent like color of the piece. I don't know. I just feel like I really get the whole, like from like the subtle colors, like the subtle watercolors. I really get the whole religious symbolism. But then I also like the addition of the new technology. So I feel like there's just like, I feel like you could add like maybe like some sort, like maybe like clouds, or like just something more in like the background. I don't know.
What if you made like the background like a really recognizable like game background or something?
Word. You could like have them in like a video game or on like a screen or something. That'd be cool.
You said you wanted to fix the hand pieces so that it's not broken. You mean it's like so it looks like it's actually in the hand?
Yeah, I've been having trouble with that, so I've been like redoing it constantly because it wouldn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I finally got like the scale of everything correct, the way I wanted it to look, but it's a little bit difficult for me to actually like make it look as though Adam is holding them without screwing up both hands too much.
One way to make it easier for that, instead of like him holding a video game console, why not just make him wear the Power Glove? Like you could get both points done without ruining too much of the aspect. Well, not ruining, but like, you know, like without being too much of a difficult aspect.
That's much easier than what I was going to suggest, which was breaking up the fingers and hands so that you can put them over the controller.
Yeah, you could select just the fingers and cut that out. It would probably only take like less than a minute to select that and then put it on a different layer. But yeah, the scale and everything obviously is important. Yeah, I think that it might be helpful to what you're trying to get at here if you just kind of use this placement as a guide in some way and try to focus more on embedding other characters and because you said this is based on like our current status of like this pandemic. I don't know exactly if that's what you're going to be sticking with or
No, that was just my like original proposal.
yeah, because if you go with this like VR like game like dream, right, you're creating your own world kind of aesthetic that Anthony was kind of referring to, then you could use this layer itself as like a reference layer, or you could be blending that in some way and really just start focusing more on other characters and how, you know, like how maybe some of those other characters are warping or creating kind of whatever effect you're going for. And then you could always then incorporate different pieces of this over top of or blending into or some kind of like partial reference. But yeah, I think what you want to focus on next is like that explosion of like, oh, this is what in this guy's mind is, right? This is like what he's doing. Because as of right now, I think you're approaching it a little like a little meticulously, and which is fine if you wanted to have it that way. But I think going in that quick, like throwing things in approach, at least could give you more ideas, you know, as you kind of piece things together.
Last time you said you wanted to get someone to pose for that person. You could always have him or the other person just hold something, say like a can, so that the hands are in the correct place. And you can, instead of using those controllers, you can use the PlayStation VR controllers because they're similar to the shape of a bottle.
Yeah.
So it's easy to slide in.
I like actually have a friend with the VR headset and all that, so I was just gonna ask him to do it. But I just haven't gotten around to it because we've all been pretty busy this week.
Yeah. All right, we are up to Julian.
I had two ideas. This one and the next picture, but my idea was that we as humans are obsessed with the like social media nowadays, and in this picture, I attempted to open the head of the person, and then when upon opening, you see all the things that we are obsessed about that comes out. And in the next picture, we see how there's a dystopian world and how our mind are conformed to what we see in the world and what we interact with the world. Yeah.
I think the way that you made those icons kind of glow a little bit. I don't know if you found the images like that or if you did that, but I think that's pretty cool looking. I think it draws your attention towards them.
Right. Yeah, I use the FX blending options called inner glow and outer glow for that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think it looks cool.
Yeah, that's mad cool.
Thank you.
Idea of his face being split with all the icons coming out, because I feel like it really helps your concept. And it kind of helps to show how all these apps are consuming him or just people in general.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I really like. I fuck with the. My bad. Sorry for the bad. Like, I really appreciate the. I really appreciate like the whole graphics you have. I just feel like you can add like another element, maybe like an element of like the effect all of this has on one's brain or something. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, I got you.
Like how straightforward it is. I feel like a lot of times with like montages, it can get really confusing to know what's going on, but it's really clear what you're trying to say. And I like that it's just like flat out straightforward and symbolic.
Thank you.
The way the icons are floating out of this person's body is it's kind of like cracking an egg and the yolk falls out.
Yeah.
Or since it's a person, more like someone's soul leaving their body.
Right.
That's who we are.
Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily. I was thinking, like, do we need to know why the head's cracking open? I don't think it's necessary. I know because there's a lot of symbolism going on, and it's in general, it's just pretty obvious that inside his head is all this social media. However, the one thing that's still slightly confusing is like the foreground elements and the inside of the head elements. I think they're working in an interesting way, but if you try to like read them, it kind of becomes a little fuzzy. Like inside the head, I guess, like, okay, maybe your brain is like a computer, and I don't know. Thoughts to follow through that though are, does there need to be any kind of like broken connection kind of things, like vibes? I don't know. The last thing I want to also talk about too is you could play with movement, because right now they just look like they're floating out. And I don't think all of them need to have a sense of like movement, but I think it could be helpful for a few of them maybe to have that. or icons from that app could be, like spewing out of that in some way, like, hearts from Instagram or whatever. And then if the head's cut here and you could see like the Twitter logo inside of the head, then how is this, I think it's WhatsApp, right?
Yeah.
How is that like already outside of the head, like over top of the head? Unless it like has spun, like it's spinning.
I guess.
So
Yeah.
that's why I bring up like this sense of maybe movement could be into play to kind of add to that realism of like this kind of bizarre scene,
Yeah.
Cool. And then also there's a black outline on this one, which yeah. Okay, let's
Yeah, you could skip that one. That was my other idea.
Okay, Matthew.
So right now for mine, I'm still trying to figure out techniques I want to use. Because I remember last time I talked about the Buddha thing. So I was trying to figure out for my, because I want to convey the message that thanks to technology, people can interact with so many different forms and shapes, no matter what device it is. And I wanted to put that across. So that's why I have the server in the background with the wires on the side. But like as you said last time, the line between them is so defined that you can still see it.
I see that you've changed the color of the middle person's forearm and hand because they used to be all red. So I like that there's less opacity. I think it blends better.
Thank you.
I noticed that on some of, like one of the images, like the computer, the hands are behind it, but then on the other two, the hands are in front of the devices. I was just wondering if there's a reason for doing that, or if you are still like figuring that out, or I don't know if it would make more sense to have them all be the same or something.
Oh no, you're right. I just for the middle one, the switch, I want I want the effect where the fingers show up behind the screen. I don't know why. It just seemed like it would be really nice. But for the desktop computer, no, yeah, it's supposed to be in front. So that I forgot to change. It's supposed to be in front.
No, I think one previous comment in class was that this green like inner rectangle is not centered, and I was kind of questioning you on the reasoning why. Does it have a meaning? And now that I think about it, it could, if you kept playing into that sense of kind of being off center, you could really uphold a sense of like glitch going on maybe a little bit more, especially with the colors of that green. Kind of gives off that glitch aesthetic.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you mean. I should work. I would definitely want to work on that point more.
any last comments? Okay. Let's go to the next one here. Jillian.
So my Wi-Fi is kind of in and out. So if I just freeze, don't be surprised. Yeah, I have a lot of work to do with this. This is my first time ever using Photoshop, so I'm very much a beginner. But the TV in the background, I originally had the eye as like the sun.
Yeah, she's gone. Oh, never mind.
Okay, wait, okay, I think I'm back. My Wi-Fi is horrible, of course, when I'm supposed to speak. I had the eye as the sun, but then I switched that. So any feedback would be greatly appreciated. I'm gonna add something to the clouds. But other than that, I have a lot more to add into.
What exactly is it that you're trying to convey with this image, if anything?
Just like the sense of not knowing where you belong in the world and kind of just like this dreamlike aesthetic. Just kind of like the sense of discovery, figuring out.
Seems to me like the TV and the eye could work better together and easier if they were just a bit bigger in the frame. You've got that like band of horizon underneath the bridge and above the water line that like they could scale into, and I feel like if you like if you they want, or if you want them to be a bigger part of the image, then they could take up more of that space, and then you'd be able to either like put one inside of the other or have them side by side or something like that.
Well, I missed some stuff. I heard a chainsaw going, so I wanted to go investigate. My roommate here, housemate, I mean, he owns the house, but he was going to have me help him prep a tree to cut down, and he's currently trying to cut it down himself, and he doesn't know how to use the chainsaw. And the lines of the tree are going over all the cables. So I tried to ask him to not interfere with my class, but hopefully he's not too big of an idiot. So I didn't even start a timer. I walked away. It was like, oh, I need to go figure out what the hell's going on. Anybody else have any last comments here? Okay. Umaya.
Okay, so briefly, for the concept I was going for was the idea that everybody wants to live this Hollywood life, the cars, the clothes, the money, and the fame. And basically it was to show what people are longing for and what people feel is deemed to be success. That's it. Although for this specific picture, I would like to blend better, but I'm not really sure how to do that because I'm very new to Photoshop and Adobe in general. So that's something I want to work on while also adding in more elements.
So what kind of vibe do you guys get from what's going on right now?
Hypnotizing.
It feels trippy.
I feel like the red from this image in the center doesn't really match up with the rest of the like colors that you were going for.
Yeah. But I like the Porsche. Or that's not Porsche. That's a
It's a Ferrari.
Ferrari. Yeah, I'm bugging.
I'm thinking maybe I'll either change the red to match the background or I'll make the background, I'll change the Hollywood to match the background to make it blend a little bit better. And then go from there.
I think the sack of money is a little overt in terms of its imagery. Like you could go for something a little more subtle than just a bag with a dollar sign on it.
Honestly, I feel like you could keep the bag of money if I feel like the bag of money would be cool if you have the hand grabbing it. Like you see how that hand is just like grabbing at the swirl? I feel like if you have the hand like trying to get the bag of money, that'd be cool.
Okay.
I think it's shown right now that hand is reaching for all that stuff. That's all together.
I feel as though the Hollywood sign should be more prominent, like more obvious, and I don't know, maybe add some effect in there.
Right.
I see you have Kanye on the lower left, and he's not doing too hot right now. Perhaps you can have some other stars who maybe have some kind of fall from grace. I'm trying to figure out the name of someone who's on Disney Channel. He was acting a fool not too long ago. Probably due to rough upbringing, as you know, Hollywood children have.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple different ways we could be approaching how you're blending things and aligning things or organizing. As of right now, if you're keeping this twirl kind of aesthetic, it would allow you to use that as a structure for like having everything be confusing and spinning like out of control, spinning too fast, you know, like that distortion of and there's symbolism between, you know, beyond that as well. Or yeah, it could be a matter of things are out of reach. So I guess it's kind of trying to solidify exactly what you want people to think when they're looking at this, so that you having that down, that'll allow you to have a little bit greater influence on what the images, how the images are affecting one another. Because yeah, as of right now, I'm seeing like money, fame, and yeah, this character lower left is kind of just confused. Maybe I'm not quite sure. I mean, I'm confused looking at him. I don't know if he's confused. But yeah, I guess there's just kind of counter, kind of like conflicting things going on. So yeah, I think it's like solidifying exactly what you want to say, and then we can work together to piece things together. Piece these images together. Okay, let's go with Rosa.
Okay, for some reason, when I converted it to a image, and also when I uploaded the Photoshop file on Google Drive, it gives it this white border that isn't in my Photoshop file. I don't know why it's doing that, but basically, my idea is looking. I kind of have shifted rendering, but basically I'm looking at climate change, and also since there's all of these forest fires that are going on, kind of thinking about the idea of the forest fires in conjunction with climate change and how that's affecting our perception of how things are happening right now. Yeah, and I was also thinking here I just drew in the fire, but I was thinking that I might be interesting to also include instead images of fire that I manipulate to kind of be in a similar pattern.
So this is maybe I might have zoned out there looking down my sheet here, but is this the globe we're looking at? Like what's the...
There is a globe here that I put a blend mode on. I also have a photo of a forest in the background, and I have different colors and things that I put behind and in front of.
And so what's the general meaning here?
The thinking about the forest fires that are happening in California and on the West Coast, and climate change, and how that connects with how we perceive the world and the things that are going on.
Cool.
I really like the colors that you went with, and I like how they all meld together. Also, the effects that you used on your background image of the forest. I think it's really cool, and it really ties together very well with everything else that you've overall created with this image.
I like the like it's not like I know, so it's like you made your own fire. It's not like it's just like like the regular fire from Google Images. Sort of like this own creative energy that's burning down, that you symbolize that's burning down the earth. So that was cool.
the pinkish color near the bottom, the base of the trees, makes it feel almost otherworldly. Perhaps I don't know if that was the point. Saying like, if you burned all the trees down, this is no longer a home. It can't sustain us.
I do want to try to get through one more. I didn't realize, kind of behind. We'll have to finish some people off next week. Is there anybody that feels like they really could use the feedback today? I think we have, is it just Cole and Thomas left? I feel like there's a few people that might have not had their images in.
Oh, me, Amir.
You're saying you don't have your image in?
Yeah, I don't. I have I'm recreating
Yeah.
my image, but I had.
Who? Anybody need feedback today? I mean, everybody was hoping for feedback today.
Instead of that, I'm planning to like redo my entire image like from scratch, so like it's gonna look completely different. I wonder that's fine as well.
Okay, well, nobody's super drastic. Wanting to finish, we could wrap up a few more critiques next class because we only covered 12, so I did a little bit too much rambling. Maybe started a little too late. I wanted to say one quick thing about roses, though. Rose, I really enjoy what you're doing with the hand-drawn aesthetic, and I don't think you should veer away from that. I think you should keep finding ways to make sure that that's kind of like the forefronting component, because it's really interesting effects you got going on. I would instead keep trying to play around with how you then use that drawn content as a component to then do effects with in Photoshop. So just like you would have a photo of a face or something, you would still be like selecting components of that face to do something, right? So rather than, I think it's interesting what you have going on with trees, but for instance, like all this area up here or some areas in the globe or in the fire, maybe it's a matter of like selecting, using like magic wand or something to select areas of color within that, in those, say in the fire, and then use that selection to then go to another layer of like an image associating to that fire, and then cut that content and put that content on a layer like above the fire, right? So you might see like hands or face or some kind of meaningful component that's aiding to what you're saying, kind of like only embedded in certain colors maybe. So I'm just trying to like aid that process of like maintaining the drawing as like forefront, but also how you could embed other content, right? You could like layer blend that fine selection into it or some way.
And one question I had, I don't know if you know the answer, but I don't understand why when I put it into Google Drive, it has this border that wasn't there previously.
It could be could be a couple different things. Normally, this is a thing that you would see in Illustrator dealing with Canvas. Is it Canvas? Yeah, Canvas. Or Artboard, I think it is in Illustrator. Or it could be like a hidden layer sometimes gets, when you export, sometimes a hidden layer gets turned on. I wouldn't really know until I like tried to export your file. But yeah, it's a PSD, and usually PSDs like show every layer as a preview. So this could be like you have a white border as a layer. But if you hid that layer and then exported it as like a JPEG, you wouldn't see it in the preview. So it's just kind of showing you what's in the file, I would assume. So yeah, regardless if you got your critique in today or not, I still want everybody to post their images to the Facebook page. And then get your replies in. I didn't put a deadline on the schedule. I'll do that now after class. I usually have that due within a couple days, so probably like, you know, Friday by midnight or something like that. That way you guys have some more feedback to work on your stuff over the weekend. And Monday will be I think our last in-class work session in class to work on it. And then you'll continue to have time before it's due on your own. And you can meet with me in office hours if need be. But yeah, so don't forget about the Facebook feedback, and then make sure you guys make heavy progress over the weekend so we can get some more work done on Monday. Cool. Have a good weekend. Yeah, you got a question, Cole?
I just requested to join the group, but I think you need to authorize. I saw a couple.
Anybody that is going to request over the next day or two, I'll get to it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you guys are good to go.
Thank you. Have a nice day, man.
Thanks, you too.
Leaving.
Said to him, you know,
Hey dudes. Sorry I'm a couple minutes late. My buddy is trying to use a chainsaw in the backyard. And he's never used a chainsaw. And he won't wait for me, so I kind of just gave up and walked away. But anywho, I'm going to get these downloaded. Well, actually, I'm not even going to try because the last class I tried twice and it kind of never downloaded. It like prepared the zip and then it just went away. So what I was just doing for last class is just previewing it here. It's kind of fuller size. And I've just stayed the presenter so as to make it simple, so we kind of don't waste time. Yeah, so if you don't have your image in there, make sure you get it in. Everybody should have their webcams on. Today we're gonna have, it's like a discussion day with everyone. So everybody should have that on. And then I'm gonna also review the Facebook feedback kind of section, primarily because this also applies to feedback that we're going to be giving today in class. So right on the project page down here, there is a, is this updated? I feel like this is, there we go. Yeah, I updated it, there we go. I have some notes in here about your statement. So your statement should be like when you post your Facebook post, your statement should be a little bit more up to date. So not so passive, not so much like you don't know what you're doing. It should be more along the lines of like presenting it almost as a finished work. And the reason you do that is that it gives everyone the sense of where you're trying to take the work, right? And we can then use your statement as a kind of key toward focusing our feedback on what you're doing. And so this is just also an exercise of like getting your thoughts onto paper. So, and then I also want as many people to get feedback as they can. So, just because some people's images might not be fully, maybe they didn't have tons of time, there's not a lot on them. We should still try to give everybody feedback. So rather than 20 people commenting on one person's image, right? How does that affect a lot of people? I'm just kind of making an effort to keep that from happening. So there's a blurb there about trying to comment on people who don't have comments yet. But then in general, when we're giving feedback, this is the kind of like little guide that I like to present. Giving feedback can be a little bit of a challenge when you first start in a more professional way, like with art, especially like we don't all have a background in art, perhaps. And I guess the overall consensus here today is that we want to get feedback that's more specific than unspecific. And specific in the sense that we want to know how to move forward with our images, right? That's like the whole meaning behind today's meeting. So there is 4 different types of feedback. There's positive and negative specific. Giving somebody negative specific feedback could be a little bit of a challenge in like your normal day-to-day. So it might not be so common for most people. Like you just don't walk up to, you know, a cashier and say, oh, hey, you know, your shirt's not tucked in. That doesn't come off as very professional. Maybe that's a good comment, but like just out of the blue, no context, they didn't ask for it. It kind of comes off as like maybe rude or condescending, or, you know, there's all these kind of undertones. But today, since we all can agree that like the whole point is to get feedback, right? We all should be expecting all types of feedback. So I'd like for you guys just to be aware of these different types and how you should be using them. So yeah, in general, positive and negative specific are what we should be focusing on, because we give reasons as to why something may or may not need to be changed, or what's working, what's not, and why. And then you should try to avoid like unspecific positive feedback, because it doesn't really get anybody anywhere. You know, like, oh, this is a really cool image. Well, what the hell does that mean? Right? Yeah, okay, great, thanks. Like maybe it's a positive thing in the sense of like it might make you feel a little bit better, but it doesn't really give you any reassurances that what you did is working other than you know, I don't know. And at this point, a lot of your images could just be very well like content from online that you cut and pasted right now, right? Just kind of orienting things. So yeah, it might be cool, but like maybe you had really no real investment yet into that content. So is it really you that's making it cool, or is like the original photographer a cool photographer? Or so that's why we want to be more specific. And then you always want to avoid negative, unspecific comments, because they don't help. They actually deter. I don't know why I said deter. Well, firstly, they all of a sudden create like a wall between you and the person you're getting feedback from. And walls are never good. And then, yeah, I guess that's the main thing I'm trying to bring out here. I guess I don't really ever focus on describing this, but when you give unspecific, like negative comments, it really kind of shuts the person down to an extent. You know, if they don't retort or something, and then they're less likely to like give you comments, right? In the future, they might just be not willing to kind of help you out. So everybody here should be like willing to work together. We're doing the same stuff. I think that's pretty straightforward. These kind of basic guidelines for giving critique. I still need 9 people to get their webcams going before we can start. And let's see. Okay. Oh, crap. I think I'm going to get you guys started. I have this recorded, so it's going to be I can come back and reference it because I do give you guys like participation points for like giving feedback online and on Facebook. So, I just want to give a quick couple points of reference for how we're going to be working through this. So we should all get, I don't know, I kind of overestimated last class. Try to aim for just like a quick blurb description, like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. What's your project? What is it trying to present? Just a blatant thing so we have a starting point to talk. Try to avoid asking a lot of questions because questions then prompt an answer, and we don't really need answers right now. We need to be just delivering thoughts. We want to reserve as much time as we can for us to give whoever's work we're looking at input. So, and then to that point, if people are commenting saying, "Oh, I really like the color scheme," we don't need whoever's work we're looking at to then, reply and talk about the color scheme for 30 seconds on why they did that. I mean, within reason, some comments are always welcome, but it should be a little bit less of a back and forth conversation in the pure and simple fact that we don't have a lot of time. So it's just going to be a little bit more of like a rapid fire kind of thought train here. I'm going to keep time. Hopefully you guys can kind of hear my like alarm go off, which will kind of serve as like okay, we got to wrap it up and get to the next person thing. I was going to print off my guide for this class, and then the chainsaw madness began. So while you guys start, I'll be kind of sort of absent for a couple minutes. Just I'm going to go print this, but I'll let you guys discuss, and I'll be here. So we're going to start with Jackie's first. Jackie. Jackie, are you there?
Hello.
Hey, so Chris and Nick and Jackie and Brett, you don't have webcams, or?
I'm showing up twice because I have two devices, and one of them doesn't have an audio jack and the other one has a webcam.
Oh, I see you up there. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm here.
Still not working.
Who's that, Nick or
Brett?
Brett. And Nick, are you here?
I'm just on my desktop, so I don't have a webcam. So
okay,
I'm gonna order one.
Yeah, if you guys can try to work on that. I know I have a couple people in my first class too that are working through that. Webcam, you can get one less than $20 on Amazon. It's better so we can all really get the personalized kind of feedback. So the last thing I will mention too is what could kind of be helpful. The last class really didn't follow this principle and we were okay, but just to try to avoid a lot of like people talking over one another, it could be helpful to like kind of, do that whole hand raising thing. I'm not going to be calling on you guys. I'm going to let you guys like run the chat yourself for the most part, but I'm just kind of suggesting like, oh, I'm going to talk next, right? I'm going to kind of like, however you guys want to swing it, that's just a suggestion, because it can get muddled if people are chatting. Okay, let's kick it off with Jackie.
So my basic premise, I guess, would be that I was trying to represent like the monotony and just the timelessness that has been quarantine for the past couple of months, and I was just trying to basically condense that into one image. So you have someone going out of focus. His face is muddled. he's slowly like just fading, I guess. And then I didn't really know how to represent time. Clocks seemed to be the most obvious. So I had a clock as background. And I had a bunch of overlays, trying to get it to edited them so that it looked like they were all melting, sort of like, watching paint dry. I planned on going further with this because another aspect that I had in mind was sort of forgetting what was like I personally forgot most of the interactions I had during quarantine. So I was going to have faces that were faceless sort of around the image as well in places. But yeah, it's basic premise.
I would like to say I really like the concept that you chose to depict, and I do really like the way that you have all the clocks, and you also made the character have an effect to where it looks fading. I would just try and find some other things you could add into the piece that'll help it kind of represent the quarantine time, because I feel like looking at this, it just kind of looks as if like time is fading or something like that. But if you add a little more aspects, maybe even just like little COVID signs or something, or like a quarantine symbol, that would help kind of pull the whole concept together in the end.
That's fair. It is a bit open-ended currently.
I think it would be cool, yeah, if you added like faceless people. I think that would be cool. And maybe even if you put like clocks like on their face like instead, and like have that melting or something. I think that could show like how people's like personal concept of time is like all messed up. So just an idea.
That's definitely an idea. Yeah, I could give it a go. I don't. Oh, sorry. Continue.
What I liked seeing is kind of more so in the bottom right, how like there's that purple and yellow like splash in there where everything else is a little bit more like monochromatic. I'm like thinking maybe try to add a few more splashes of color to make it look maybe a little bit more abstract, maybe a little bit more disjointed. So like it's like everything's all over the place and it's kind of going along the lines of who knows where anything or what time or like anything like that sort of thing.
Yeah. I did have another sort of test version uploaded, but I think Bernard's a bit preoccupied, so I don't think he could switch to it on the, oh yay! Yeah, so this one has just an additional layer on top of it, and it was just a overall filter, sort of made the background less of just a plain white. But yeah, I could I feel like thanks for the color idea. I definitely feel that the color is a bit isolated currently, so a couple more splashes somewhere else would be a thing. I think we're done with me, Bernard.
Yeah, I'm almost done here, and then a little bit more observant. Yeah, as I'm just getting this to print, I'm not following exactly everything that's going on. I think that there is a little bit of unused space on the outside that could be helpful to activate in some way. And the one thing that try to avoid getting caught in the trap of is, I don't know if you are using it as of yet, but transparency. I don't know if you've used a lot of transparency.
I tend to mess around with the slider quite a bit.
Yeah, so the one caveat to that is then things end up just looking like a more so overall blend, and they end up getting a little muddled
Mhm.
rather than having detail in their own right. So yeah, I would also explore a couple different options as you go along, because that's one thing that I kind of start to get the vibe of is like things are just kind of have like a lot of transparency rather than like a blend mode or an effect, right? I mean, you have a lot of effects going, but that's just, I just see it sometimes like, oh, just keep an eye on the use of transparency.
Mhm.
Let's go with Kelvin.
Yeah, mine's in portrait, so you might have to. Yeah. So mine is my mic working or?
Yep.
Okay, so mine is focused on like online harassment. So I have a kid like crying, sitting on top of a phone or tablet, with like he's phasing or glitching out, and there's like figures standing behind, like shadowed figures standing behind him, also like phasing out, and then there's like fingers pointing at him and like arrows attacking him. So, and then like he's just in a dark space, which is like, you know, like it just, yeah, the background's like protruding in and out. And it's just, that's the space I like he feels like he's in.
I noticed that some of the hands are like kind of like clipping into whatever the tablet he's sitting on,
Mhm.
and I was wondering if like there's some way you could like just make the hands like over it. I feel like that
Yeah,
would look a lot better.
right now the hands are semi-transparent, which is why you
Okay.
somewhat see through it. So I can just remove the transparency, so it's a foreground instead of like clipping a bit with the phone.
I think if I think it could be even like more overwhelming because I think like internet like hate or like I don't know criticism can feel like really overwhelming. So maybe even if you added like more hands around the top or like another aspect that makes it feel even like more, I guess, suppressing. I feel like that would like drive home the point a little like even more than it already does.
Yeah, I feel like a layer, like an extra layer of like a mean comment or something like that, or just something negative that has affected this person would be interesting from like social media.
Yeah, I could have like text bubbles like stabbing into him, and then
Yeah, going off of that, I really think that there could be like a lot of usage of words because I mean like you don't have to be so because I mean anyone who like looked at it would understand what's going on without it being too obvious. So I feel like adding the words as well would kind of like add an extra element to it. I think the like putting them all around or even putting them on the words or on the hands or I think coming from those two guys even like yeah I think like adding of like a text element would be really cool to see.
Yeah, the one thing that I'll restate here is that this image we're not necessarily focusing so much on like retaining all the meaning in the image that we're looking at. I guess I'll start over with that. Like every viewer that's looking at this doesn't need to necessarily know exactly what the image is just by reading it. So that's why we have the statement that we're also coupling, kind of devolving. And that being said, the second project is really going to be the opposite. We're going to be utilizing type to, quite frankly, tell people what kind of is going on for more or less, using type in that way. So this project, you could use type if you want. It is really more, I would think of a project to be focusing on just playing around with imagery. So you can totally still use type. It's just like, do you need it? Not really. The one thing I think is kind of strange right now is the background is very flat. Like it's almost like a 3D effect on a 2D surface. But in terms of like depth, there's not a lot of depth, which can be fine. However, it does call upon the forefronting focus, right? It really makes you focus more on what's happening right here. And I think that there's just a lot of unused space that you could be activating within that background area in some way.
I feel like some of it can be fixed by going to landscape, so I can like see what happened if I went landscape, because there's a lot of empty space on the top and bottom.
Cool.
Thank you.
Alyssa.
Okay, so mine so far I have like the base down really, but so I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but like on the insides of all of the objects that we found, I'm gonna do like how I said in my proposal, I'm gonna put like the real pictures from like these times or whatever to show that like they weren't great. And then in the middle too, I'm gonna add I'm gonna like make it say like I was born in the wrong era, like how people say now. So that's why the middle is pretty fun. But yeah, so like this is all I have so far.
I kind of missed a bunch of that. Did other people hear glitchiness? Yeah. I guess I didn't get all of that, but
I can like
well, it's okay. I mean, in general, the way I used to have the class run is like you just stand back and like have other people talk about your work at first anyway. So it's not super critical. But yeah, what do you guys think?
So would like the real images like go in their sunglasses or like in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like
you can go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Like I'm just planning on putting them like in the sunglasses and then like in the Polaroid picture and like maybe the roller skate like in the wheel or something, and then like a few of like the squares in the disco ball and just stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I like all of the images you selected. I think maybe once you start putting like the real images in, it might be more helpful to have like less objects, just so we can really like focus on like the specific like real images that you're gonna show. But obviously I don't really see what it looks like yet, but I think that would maybe like so we can really focus on specific objects. But yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was a little bit confused about, like once I started actually putting it together. I know like the images are gonna look pretty small and I don't want them to look that small. So it's definitely just something we have to like fix as I go.
I actually I agree with what she was saying. Like I kind of think it would be cool, like putting it like the other images within the sunglasses, and like I don't know what's the camera thing, like the pictures that are like in the circle thing.
Viewmaster.
Yeah, on that. Yeah, on the
Viewmaster.
Viewmaster. I feel like you put in like even just putting little frames of images there, like because like from what I understood, you said your theme is about how like people say like, oh, it would have been so great living in the past, but really those parts weren't as great either. So like I'm saying like you could put some like riots in the reflection of like their sunglasses, or like events, like just clips of like little events of that happened that are like monumental to our history today. And I feel like you have like a very like interesting concept, and I like what you've done so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's looking like a lot of this is like a sense of leisure. Yeah, you know,
Hmm.
within a certain era. So it's like, well, what about leisure are you wanting us to kind of think about? And I mean, maybe you could use the background to help nail down that point. I don't think it's bad that you have a solid background, but it's just like another unactivated
Yeah.
area to
Yeah,
explore.
I'm like not really in love with the background. Yeah, I could definitely change it. So,
Yeah, do you have access to a scanner?
um, do they have them like at,
Um, did you ask do they have them at the school?
yeah.
Yeah, they do. I think they have them in the library. They have them in DMS. Not
Okay,
huge deal. It's just like um, if you had access to like an old magazine for some kind of content,
Mm-hmm.
when you scan it in, you're going to get like a really not quite pixelated, but like a dot matrix effect happening when you zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's very, there's artists that you have used that zoom in kind of effect as like a pop art kind of aesthetic. So that might actually be something to do some research in is pop art,
Yeah.
because then that could influence what kind of overall theme you're kind of making us lean towards, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Nathan.
Hello. So my project was something that was supposed to instill a bit of fear in the viewer by showing different types of pollution and having like the earth in the background. Right now, I might make some pretty significant changes. It didn't really turn out the way I wanted, so yeah.
What I can recommend is that you could probably blend the middle to the top and bottom so there's not such a dividing line right down to the center of the page.
Yeah, that's definitely a good idea.
I noticed that like the word reconstruct, it's like gray and it kind of like blends in with the background, making it like a little bit hard to see. If you go on the layer and you press like blending options, like maybe you can like emboss it or something to make it pop out a little bit more.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I also considered putting a shadow behind it, but I didn't really like the way it looked, so I took it off. But yeah, I think blending it might be a better idea. Or at least making the text a little bit darker. Maybe I could like kind of split it and make it darker in one spot and lighter in another spot. I don't know.
You you could also, this is from what I noticed, some of the images have really blurry edges from where you were cutting them out. You could try whenever you could try feathering them, or even just manually blurring the edges so it doesn't just look like it has like such a stark like outline or cutout like effect to it.
Yeah, okay. I haven't heard of feathering. Where is that in the effects?
Feathering.
Yeah.
When you have like like an image or something, or just a selection, you can just right click. I'm assuming this is PC. You could just right click and then feather would just be on the menu when you right click.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I'll definitely try that.
I like how like the smoke kind of like rises into like the opposite border and how like the sewage water like seems to drip down. And I know it was already kind of talked about like trying to break up that just try like piece thing. But at the same time, I feel it kind of works having that inversion there. And so maybe instead of just having 3 separate parts, split it up more into like different sections and like more jagged edges instead of just block, 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 you know?
You mean like uneven sections or? Okay, yeah. That could also work.
Any last comments? Okay. Should be pretty close up to speed here now. Give me 1 second. Now that I have this print. It's funny, you think you've done something so many times. Like, yeah, this is going to be great. And there's always something. There's always something to, like a wrench thrown in your gears. Okay. We're up to Alexander.
All right, so my concept is basically like a highlight of my summer, kind of showing what I did. So like I live in New York City, and then it was pretty crazy, like between like, first of all, coronavirus, and then there was like riots going on for a large portion of June. So like, I don't know, instead of spending time at home, I was going like away every weekend with my friends just to get out of there. So basically I wanted to show like how going away every weekend was like the safe place, and then how like dangerous it was at home if there were like any riots that were happening.
Okay, so I liked how you have the idea of like putting like everything on here of what you did in quarantine, and I think having the location, like, is that location in the middle like where you went on vacation?
Oh yeah.
I think it'd be pretty cool if you could like maybe expand upon that a little bit by putting different like things you did there, maybe, or even places you went to. Like maybe you could even do a picture you took. Just a suggestion. And also you could maybe you could actually take one of those pictures and put a filter on it for the background. Might be might not work, but it's just a suggestion.
I know you said not to like ask questions, but like on the outside, are you like planning to put more stuff that kind of happened during this year, kind of during quarantine and just general 2020 things?
Yeah, definitely. Because like I even have like a few pictures I took myself, but I haven't imported them on my computer yet from my camera, so I plan on doing that. But yeah, definitely, because like I was in Manhattan, and to see all the like broken debris and everything, like all the protests, so like I have those pictures I could include as well.
I like the whole fit like the fishbowl like aspect of it, of like the whole isolation from whatever else is going on in the world. And I feel like, yeah, like you already mentioned that you were gonna add more images, but yeah, that would be my suggestion. Add a couple more images to really like highlight the difference in like what you had to make for yourself versus what was really available for people to be doing and getting involved in. So I like that. Like I feel like it'd be like a cool idea to add, like really show the contrast of what like your life would have been like to what it had to be through the whole fishbowl idea. And I think it's a cool thing that you're doing.
Yeah, I think when you add more images and stuff, I think you could kind of isolate the fishbowl a little bit more. Like you have this very slight kind of white outline that separates it from the image. But I think if you might want to blend all the images together into one thing and then have the fishbowl a little bit more, separated from them to show that this is a separate thing from all the other crazy stuff. That might be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Something that came to mind for me, thinking like of it with the fishbowl, how a fishbowl has like that opening on the top, and how something else that might be something a little bit different, like a snow globe. I'm not exactly sure if you're going for everything was like the same and like this is my bubble, or like there was a little bit of influence. But with a fishbowl, I feel that there could be like a little bit of like dipping in, like this is the real world, like kind of coming in. I'm not exactly sure if that's what you want to go for.
No, that's definitely a cool idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep going. Julius.
How's it going? If you guys hear any background noise, I'm just excuse it. Like there's just construction happening in my house right now. But basically, my project focuses on police brutality and basically how all the current events and the protests and how the police reacted to everything and the government reacted to everything just basically adds to the fire. That's why Donald Trump is looking over the flames, law and order, and the police are protecting the police down here or down the lower half, and then the lower half is kind of like a collage of events that's happened in 2020. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see the smaller ones, but yeah.
I think I'll preface on this one. This is like another good example of how like law and order could instead just be like the title of the work,
Okay.
rather than having to plop it down on there. Because then
Yeah,
if you in reality, if you're looking at this with the statement next to it, like you're gonna read it anyway.
yeah,
That's
true.
why I keep coercing people to think about not using types. And this project type's good for like maybe embedding small like I don't know, kind of side content to like read into maybe, but yeah, totally want to keep playing with images. What else do you guys think about the composition here?
For the collage at the bottom, I like that it's like in front of the American flag. I think that's cool. Maybe like, because it looks like you have some like pictures layered like on top of each other. So maybe like the ones in the background could be maybe more transparent and like almost like you can see the flag through them. So it's like almost like woven into the fabric of what America is. And then the ones in the front might stand out a little bit more even.
Yeah, it was actually last night I was playing around with like just like the blending options on that whole group of the collage on the bottom. And I had a blending option. It was like called Dumanasi or something like that. And the flag like blended through really nicely, but just made like a lot of the images on the bottom really hard to see.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just ended up going with the black and white over the flag, but I can definitely play around a lot more with it and see how it turns out.
Yeah, that's cool.
I also think that like along the lines of like playing around with images, like maybe something like around Trump and like the fire, that whole sky area, maybe you could like maybe include the little things within there. I'm not sure like what, like I'm like blanking on what you could include, but it'd be really cool to like see like just like little aspects being incorporated there. Sorry, I'm like
Yeah, I
kind of getting a
definitely
little
see that.
antsy.
I can definitely see that. Like you mean like something like other things like protruding through the smoke or like on the streets
Yeah.
or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of open space up there definitely.
Yeah, and I think going off what she said a little bit, like there's probably like a lot of cool pictures of the riots and stuff, and I think that could be like super representative if you put that in the upper portion of the image, because it would like it was all fiery and stuff, and maybe it could kind of like match the top portion of the image.
That's true. I can look for some pictures of like people protesting, maybe find a way to kind of have them blended in like the police riot line is.
Yeah, this image, to me, it doesn't quite read logically. Not that it needs to, like that's more of the second project. So in terms of like, I was thinking like, well, why is this police line on the flag and they're guarding the flag, but then there's still like, things happening at the bottom. And I don't think it necessarily matters the total layout of everything.
Oh,
I think the
oh
general,
my bad. Sorry.
I think the general consensus that I'm getting is that it's just kind of chaos. Everything's kind of everywhere. And I think to keep up with that kind of mindset, you could uphold the sense of like flowing in the image, like breaking up the image. And because right now you have like this flag that's like half the image and this other image at the top that's the other half. I think that if you have more content below, you could just use the flag as like a layer blend that could like gradient mask over top of everything. And then some content's above the flag, some's below. Kind of then starting to use that break of layers to play around. Because right now it's just kind of like this island, and it's I don't know. I don't think it needs to be. I think you keep focusing on like these little playful experience areas,
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely noticed like the flag going into like the top half is like it's pretty jarring change. Uh like just in my own thought loop, I was just thinking like the police are like almost uh like stepping on the flag by protecting the police who are brutalizing people. I mean, yeah, it's just like you can build yourself into whatever, but like I definitely see like the flag is pretty jarring, just like coming from the top image.
Yeah, there's
And
different
also
ways
like
to read everything, Like one way you could read like, oh, Trump's being burned. Oh no. And then the other you could be like, oh, Trump's the devil. Oh man. It's like whatever way you want to look at it. But I do think you need to get a little bit more content in there, and then try to do more of this like blending or division between different areas, because I think the way you have it set up is not like a night and day, like a right and wrong, or like the left side and the right side or anything like that. If you did have it like that, the conversation would probably be a bit different. Yeah, I would just keep getting content and try to warp things together. Continuing. Emma.
Hi, so my project, there's still a lot of work that I want to do with it, but the basics is there. The unlock what is beyond the screens is just an idea right now. It's not final whatsoever. But basically, I have done the dystopian, like, trapped in technology viewpoint on the right side, and then freeing up, like, freedom of mind in a way on the left, but mainly I'll probably be changing up the middle thing that is splitting the two is a picture of like telephone wires from like telephone poles that I had to like warp and skew to try and get it to like what I envisioned was like a telephone pole like in the front view, and then like the wires wrapping out into the distance to kind of look like a netting that keeps like the people there. So I'm still looking for an image that can kind of better depict that. But this is the general view and gist of what I'm going to be doing with my project.
I think on a similar note to the previous, like the Law and Order one that Julius had, I'm not sure if you want your title to be Unlock What Is Behind the Screens, but kind of like what was said, like the title is going to be read anyways, so that message is going to already come through. And I think maybe a little bit more can go where the text is instead. So it shows a little bit more of the beauty beyond what's beauty beyond the interface, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, I kind of like on the right how the background is a desert, which is kind of like barren and you don't really want to be stuck in a desert. But on the other side, I can see like a little bit of a tree or something. I think if you made the background of the left side a little bit more enticing, just in contrast to whatever's on the right side, I think it would be like a more like you should, this is better.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the left side, I have like a vision for like, I was going to add more nature and I was going to add stuff into the sky, but I haven't really figured out exactly what I want to do. I was thinking maybe some planets or something, but there's already a lot going on in the sky, especially with the text, but the text was just an idea. I'm still not really set on that. I don't really, also the quote that I like wrote, I just kind of came up with that. It's not anything set, but I definitely am going to add a little bit more to the left side and then fix up that middle to get an image that I have more put in my head.
I really like the contrast that's going on between the two sides. Like I really like the background of the dark side, but I think that on the left side you could actually make it like more like colorful and bright, like have the person and the bottom like floor area be like more in color to like drive the contrast even further to show like that this is like a much like better, like brighter, like fuller like experience.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Okay, so I don't know why it's that gray on the screen, but basically what I was going for was like pre-COVID, like I usually was out with my friends like in the city all the time. So I kind of chose to have like a city background and I made it like distorted. So this is like current. So like basically I was trying to go for like being out with like your friends is not gonna be the same as it was like before. For the mask, I kind of try to emulate like the mask being a part of my skin, but clearly it doesn't really look that good, but I'm working on it. If like in the left eye, if you zoom like really, really in, there's like a burning building. Just because it's like this is like one perspective of like this is how everybody sees the world, and then like in the right eye is like another perspective, and it's like a garden, and it's like I made it brighter just because it's like just to show like it's a brighter future, basically. So that's all I have. Oh, also to what I kind of tried to make my hair on fire, and that wasn't too obvious, but I think it's kind of obvious.
I don't know like what city that it's supposed to be, but like if you, because is the concept like the city will never be like the same and you'll never be able to like go to it in the same way? Is that like
That's basically
cool? So I think maybe if you put, you know, like if you think of like Times Square or something, there's like billboards and like screens everywhere. So maybe if you like had a couple like signs or like billboards or something in the background that like signifies like COVID or like some sort of restriction to the city, then that would like show that maybe like it'll never be like how it used to be. But that's just an idea. But I actually like the way the masks looks. I think it's kind of cool. But.
all right. Thank you. Just for like, just for your perspective, like it can just be like, okay, never mind. I was gonna ask like a billboard question, but I feel like you just want me to interpret it the way I would see it, billboards being up. I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay.
I think the use of words, I think what I'm trying to like piece together, it just says what a time, correct?
Yeah.
So I think with that, it might be smart to like add a little bit more because like it is kind of just like pieces here and there. And I don't want it, I don't think you want it to become too overcrowded. But at the same time, instead of trying to like not struggle, but force your eye to connect the words, it might be a little bit easier to see it out in different spaces instead of just kind of buried and hidden.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, thank you.
I think if you wanted the mask to look more like it was like a part of like your skin, like it like went into your face, you could cut off like the bottom part of it so it follows like the contour of your chin more, so it looks more like it's like melded on.
Thank you.
The one thing that I keep thinking about is how the distorted eye is like reminiscent of a glass eye. And anytime a glass eye is used that I'm aware of, is more along the lines of like instilling this sense of great loss. Like there was like some kind of great sacrifice or some kind of like, you know, some piece of the person is gone, which is in effect kind of what you're going for here. So I think that's in the right direction. So I would say that you might even want to just disconnect the whole eye in there all together. So it is more of like that sense of a glass eye. And then I think you want to make sure you're upholding a sense of like disconnect with the rest of the image. Right now, it kind of looks like just maybe like a sad person in the middle of a normal street of a city, but like I don't really get the firm feeling that the city has changed in some way. Like it looks just kind of like a normal city. So I guess in what way would you be able to empower the sense of like there's change, it's no longer the same, we can't like socialize the same, you know? I think there's just a little bit of that's missing, but again, we don't need to get the whole sense of everything. So yeah, I think in general, maybe just get a couple more images in here to be manipulating into what you already have.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about, I know we're taking a second here, but I'm a little lost on the fire. I'm curious what you guys think about the fire.
I think the fire is a good concept. I like it, but it's not reading to me as a fire through this image, I would say. I can see where it was coming from, like the orange, but I think you would, if you're wanting to really emphasize on that, you should definitely use just Photoshop in some like real flames, that little pictures of flames from like a Google image, and then manipulate that to fit the image a little bit better.
Okay, because what I did, like I actually did download, but I made it like an overlay just so it didn't like stand out too much. So what I'm getting is that I should make it stand out more.
Yeah, just do, or if you wanted to just add a little more, like, because it's very transparent. So if you would add a little more areas of the fire that have more or less transparency and are more like there, I would say. Words are escaping my brain right now, but
I think as well. Oh, sorry. Are you?
No, you're good. I'm finished.
As well, like seeing how it is like green in some parts, I think that kind of also confuses. Like, is it supposed to be fire sort of thing? Like, it's the color shift of it is a little bit off. I feel that having a more concrete image of flames could like bring that message across, even though it might not look as blended and smooth.
Okay.
Wilmer.
All right, so for me, like what I wanted to do is basically saying like my theme is like how this pandemic has all been about what we made out of it. Like if you look towards the right side, you can see like some signs, like one that's sign that's red and stuff with the red and white. That's a COVID sign. There's like a hurricane right there, or tornado, not a hurricane, a tornado. There's a person right there coughing with a doctor, and then right in the back is just a jail. And like that's the old year route if you look at like the street sign. And then the new year route, there's a person reading, there's a sign that says success ahead, and there's like just a nicer house. And what I kind of want to say is that it's really like two paths to this whole like perspective thing and like in our lives right now. Like, yeah, we could just sit at home and focus on like and dwell on all the things that haven't really gone our way and just take the old year route, this upcoming like these upcoming months and like just play how we've been playing the rest of the year, or we can change the perspective and go toward try to build to something new and like take this time to like this really personal growth, really just like have some like try to build off of this. Like don't let this be like really a setback. Try to just consider this as like extra time to planning. And that's kind of what I want to say with like this whole COVID thing. Like you could either go one way and try to get the better of it, or you can just go the other way and focus on like the downside of what has gone on.
Personally, like hearing you explain it, now I like get what it means. But initially, I don't know if like my brain is just dumb right now, but when I read like the old year and the new year, I didn't like get it immediately. So maybe like the signs could say something else, maybe like past and future, or like pessimistic, optimistic, like something, because it didn't click with me right away.
Yeah.
But after hearing you explain it, it makes sense. But yeah, I just didn't get it initially.
Yeah, I think I replaced the sign to like more of a blank sign, because that's pretty much all I could really find while doing my search is like one or the other without like being able to like mess up the words if I would have flipped it. Yeah.
I like how you have like the two roads. Like I like that concept, but I feel like it might be interesting to make like the actual colors on both sides. Like maybe on like the near side, like just have it like look nicer, like less clouds, like blue sky, and then have the other one like look like worse condition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking that like this is sort of what I have so far, but I do feel like I should implement more things to really like make it more drastic of like what each side is, and I think I'll add things like that, like you're saying, like make it more drastic on one side and then and more like positive on the other side.
The one thing I'm noticing right off the bat is the street and the grass, the hills, the sky. It all appears to be one image, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also looks like it's a very low resolution image. So it's, I mean, in one end, it's it's evident that you want to be kind of hacking the original image up and doing some other things with the different pieces of it. But if you haven't even got to that point yet, you might want to look into a larger res version of like a road splitting.
Yeah.
Just so that when you start to blend stuff, it doesn't get too muddled.
I got you.
Did I go over with you guys like good image searching practices?
I think you did, like just like you like making use of the tools on the Google search bar.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. It's easy to forget about when you're looking for something specific, but
yeah,
it can be helpful to really because right now it's a little distracting that your other content is in focus, but the rest is blurry.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the general consensus could be that the roads themselves could facilitate that sense of you have a decision to make, right? I think that's the whole thing about the fork in the road. So I don't even know if you necessarily need it at all. You just have different imagery on each side. And yeah, like people said, uses of color, right? I think just starting there, and then as you go along, obviously, if things aren't what you were going for, you could always put in something like a sign, you know. But yeah, I think the general layout's working using the road. Okay, we have Nicholas.
Okay. My main theme for this was kind of just mass surveillance, and I wanted to instill like a feeling of paranoia into like whoever was looking at it. So like what I have right now is like basically finished. I might add a few things, but the background is like a camera lens, and in the middle of it, it's like an eye, and to the left and right are like two faceless humans. I did that to represent like you never know who is like really watching you. And in the center of the eye, I have like this guy falling into the pupil, and I did that to represent like the descent of like increased surveillance. And it's pretty much it, honestly.
Reminds me of the X-Files intro.
Yeah, that's where I took the guy from.
Nice.
So.
One thing I would say is to, at least in my opinion, make the faceless people on the left and right a little bit more clear. Like before you explained it, I didn't really know what I was looking at.
Yeah.
So having something either a little bit more crisp or something that gives a little bit more information about what you're trying to convey, I think would help to determine what those two things are.
Thank you.
To feed off that point, and sorry my camera's off right now, I have the worst allergies and I'm just sneezing. It's gross. There's a movie from the like 20s. I don't know if you've ever seen Meshes of the Afternoon. It's from the 40s actually. But there's a faceless human in that one.
Yeah.
And you can maybe use that character as like either inspiration or just take that to have your faceless humans. Just an example.
Yeah. I was thinking of just scrapping those two because you're right. You can't really tell what they are. So I'll look that up.
I do like the effect of them though. I think I don't know. It's cool. It feels like very like cavernous and like you don't really know, like almost like a black hole. So but I like how transparent they are. But yeah, I agree. Just like making them a little bit more defined would work. But
all right. Thank you.
Yeah, are you using a lot of transparency?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of evident. I would look more into like those different uses of layer blend modes.
Mm-hmm.
That might just be a simple switch.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think we need more in here, but I do think that there is a lot of unactivated space that you could be embedding some other kinds of components in. And it's hard to say exactly until you alter what you already have. But the big thing to keep in mind with more simplified imagery like this, it comes off as being more graphical, and anything that's more graphical, you end up being more critical on the different components of it. So, yeah, I would still say that you would want to be exploring embedding content in different areas, but it doesn't need to be, you have like these two large pieces on the left and right. It doesn't need to be anything ginormous, but like this very outside edge is black and this is all black. Well, this is also black and this is also black. So I guess you could start to compartmentalize the different areas and maybe blend some stuff into those areas. So you'd still be upholding like the theme, but maybe adding another kind of component to it.
Yeah, I got to figure that out.
Yeah, it's just kind of keep playing around.
Yeah.
I don't know if I set a timer, but I feel like that's pretty good. We might finish, everyone. I think we might, if we stay pretty strict. Okay.
All right. So This is my project. It's relatively photorealistic, and the main point is to point out the absurdity and kind of similarity or monotony of these fast food advertisements and whatnot, where they have these big flashy words that kind of replace any need for actual like sentences and whatnot. So of course this is not unfinished. I'm going to be blending together all these different advertisements and slogans and that kind of stuff. And I feel like there's kind of a lot of space that I'm not utilizing as much. There's a crashed car on the bottom left that I'm thinking maybe I can add more crashed vehicles there that got, you know, blinded by this huge advertisement thing. So any suggestions would be great.
I think if you wanted to like add to the like absurdity of like advertising, I think even like pop-up ads like on a website or like on a YouTube video, like how those little ads like pop up at the bottom and you have to like click them off. Like even if you added those like bleeding off of the billboard and just like in like on the street or like in the forest or something, so it's like even more distracting to the cars, I think that could like fill some of the space, maybe.
Yeah, thanks.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't sometimes like trucks also drive around and they have like advertisement on them as well, and like also like cars and stuff. So maybe you could put like a taxi or a truck or whatnot for a store that has thing on the road and kind of like blend it and make it look kind of like it's on the road with them, and just kind of add to once again like Liv said, the absurdity of it all, like how everything like capitalism and just like sensationalism of everything.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I never thought about that. I'm also trying to make the image like more busy and kind of overwhelming. Like the billboard is going to have like a bunch of stuff like on top, like crammed next to each other on top of each other. So I'm trying to make it like super busy and overwhelming almost. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Going off of working with the billboard, I think not just putting things on it, but as well like what I'm thinking right now is like the Vegas like lights like around like the border of the billboard itself to like make it look a little bit more flashy and presentable instead of just what's in it, but what's actually on it as well, sort of thing.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of maybe kind of doing some crazy color adjusting and making it kind of look more like night, and this billboard is like brightening everything up and super flashy. But yeah, more lights is definitely a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with what they just said about the lights and like just some like bright neon or something, like just something bright that really like catches the eye. That'd be cool.
You know, I have a consideration. First thing I was going to say is if you want to have more focus on the sign and you're having trouble filling this other space, why not just make the sign a little bit bigger and or just zoom in on the road more, right? So you have less of that on the screen. But the other consideration that I was going to give is since it's all still for the most part one image other than the crashed car, you could transform this into like the sense of retro futurism, where you have like this old school sense of just driving on the road, and then like current but also futuristic like absurdities of potential, you know, advertisement. Right now you have everything on this on the billboard, but in terms of like thinking of ways of quickly filling up space, my mind goes to like my mind goes to nothing.
I was actually thinking for the sky, you could do like almost like a Batman symbol, like the future is broadcasting your message into the sky for everybody to see, like on the clouds.
I was even thinking like the street, you could like write like this street is sponsored by McDonald's or something, like subtle things like that, or like that the trees behind it are like the McDonald's National Forest or something dumb like that.
Holograms, words. Um, but as you start to get into these like absurd kind of like futuristic things, um, yeah, you kind of can. It is going to be a little awkward with the like modern vehicles. So then I was thinking, oh, well, what if you make it even more awkward and have it old vehicles? Because then you start to get into that, like that theme of retro futurism. In which case, then a lot of times when you do see that, if you do a quick Google search, it ends up having like the same color scheme across most of the content. So rather than like the ways in which you're talking kind of seems like you want to keep putting more and tweaking and adding and tweaking and crafting and tweaking. It does take a lot of time. So some of this general stuff I'm suggesting is like not saying, oh, hey, do this, but one way in which you might kind of strip back like what you previously had the ambitions of doing to like redirect to find a more simplified way of like coming up with this like a conclusion, a solution. Because yeah, all these can evolve as we're getting content, right? I just worry that like you might be trying to do too much, especially with like how much open space there is right now. Anyhow, some good feedback there. Michael.
Hi. So the concept for my project is that I wanted to like create a picture that was obviously fake but looked as photorealistic as I could make it. And I wanted to use a magic trick as the base idea because with magic tricks we understand that it's fake, but we suspend our disbelief for the duration of the trick. So when viewing this piece, I wanted people to suspend their own disbelief and contemplate for themselves where they draw the line between reality and fantasy and what is possible within their own lives. So I'm not done with it yet. I wanted to definitely add more images in like the space layer and the underwater layer, and maybe add some more like pieces of like film or like news in the comic strip layer. And then I wasn't sure if I wanted to add some like like surreal elements in the background of the park, and that's what I have so far.
What I'd say is if you're trying to focus, I think, more on the magic, the magician in the corner, I feel, should be a little bit bigger because right now it more or less, like on first glance, seems kind of just like alternate like spots and like timelines. And I know that kind of is what you want to go for, how it's like this the suspense of disbelief. But I feel that the magic part of it is not coming through as well just because the magician is so tiny.
Okay, thank you. I originally had him that size because that was just to keep it in scale with like the other like people in the park from the image I got, but I could make him bigger.
Yeah, and I don't think he needs to like his whole size doesn't need to be in the frame. I mean, I guess it'd be a little weird because right now, if his legs were to extend straight down, it'd be like in water. But I think you get what I mean. Like, just so his like his wand or hand is there. Yeah, since this is like the predominant component of this, what do you guys think about the use of this? He's got a single background with these slices radiating out. How do you think that those are affecting? How do you think that utilization as of right now is affecting the image?
I mean, I like the graphicness of it. It's like really striking. I like didn't know it was about like magic or anything at first. So I think that's the only like detraction is that like I didn't really get what it was. Like I liked the way it looked, but I didn't really understand it until you explained it. So
Yeah, like was like previously mentioned, it kind of like the magic is only like the whole magic feel isn't really like noticed until you say magic. And like because all those things are like really big and like in your face on the screen, and you're like, oh that's cool, oh that's cool, oh that's cool. But like we're like, well, what does it mean together? So I feel like because of like where like like the magician is in the corner, and like my eye, the first thing my eye will go to is all like the slices, which I feel like could also like maybe have like some like I don't know sparkle or something in the edges to make it seem more magic like maybe to like help push that point forward. But like everyone said, like it's kind of like I like the execution. I just feel like the magic could be emphasized a little more.
or maybe he could be like on stage in front of an audience, like performing, or I don't know, something extra to make it like
I think to make it seem more like magic is to kind of like make the background bigger and kind of make it seem more like a beam, like he's shooting a beam, because it's kind of confusing because it kind of fills up almost the whole background. So I feel like if you kind of pull it in a little more, you can kind of make more sense that it's like he's shooting a beam and it's not just kind of all there, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Okay, thank you.
So a couple other things that I can think of, because I really like to work in with patterns and optics and like systems. So to like developing some kind of system. Thoughts I've had are like, well, a magician like would wave a wand, right? And so right now it looks like he's waved and casted some kind of I don't know, spell, whatever you want to call it, in these different directions. So one thought is like, well, maybe if he started from the top and went down with a wand, maybe like the galaxy would be faded the most, and then it kind of goes down into how clear they are. I don't know. Just I think that might not work well though. Another thought is, have you tried any kinds of layer blending with these? Do they need any stark edges to them, or could you play around with the border so they're kind of faded in? Another thought is you have a magician here, but you also have like wizards, and I'm curious, like they're kind of the same thing, right? So like what if, I don't know if it would work with all of like this many wizards, but like what if the wizard was also casting the same kind of array outward, and then how would those rays interact with these pre-existing rays? Is it going under and above them? Is it going under them completely? If it is going under them or above them, is that affecting like the layer blending of the other rays? So I think that could be a potential outlet to be exploring, is like utilizing different features in these different scenes that are branching out in some way that are then interacting with the other rays, you know? It could get convoluted pretty quick, but it is a system to at least consider.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have Liv.
Okay, this was like my second version. I posted 2 of them because I'm still like toying with both of them. After talking last time, we discussed that like it wasn't like super personal, and like the personalization of it wasn't super clear. So I wanted to kind of take like my bedroom window and turn it into like what my desktop would look like, and like things I would use technology for, like on my phone or on my laptop. And like the right side is kind of like how I present myself, like publicly, and then on the left side is like how I use technology for like my personal life. And then like I'm somewhere in the middle, like in the mirror. I don't know, kind of showing that like both my reality is kind of in between both of these somewhere. So that was like the concept for this one, and the things I changed like after our chat last time. I'm not married to these images, so I'm open to suggestions of like other ways I can portray like my public self, because I kind of feel silly just having like my social media posted on the right side. But yeah.
I really like how you like made your window, because I don't, you probably did this intentionally, but like, you know, a computer window of the like Google Chrome or something like that is the same thing as not the same thing. Obviously, it's the same word. Regardless, what I'm trying to say is it was really clever of you to do that, and I really like how like the connection you made with that. Also, the fact that like all these kind of, even though the right side is how you present yourself and the left side is who you are like online or whatever, in terms of just like schoolwork and all these kinds of things, it all like meshes together and shows that connection, or kind of just like the self connection that you have with yourself is kind of like there's kind of a disconnect as we continue to be in these like trying times. I really like that connection that you made.
Thank you.
I also like the idea of using a window for this. Like that's a really good connection. The only thing that I have a little bit of a problem with for that is that I couldn't really tell that it's a window at first glance. It more so just looks like a brown border.
Okay.
So trying to maybe zoom out and maybe show like a wall as well, or something else that like defines it as a room, and that you're looking out the window at your media, your everything. I think that would make the window analogy a lot more clear.
Okay.
I think that maybe instead of like having screenshots of the actual profile, it'd be like interesting to do like specific posts that you've made like on each platform, since like the other side is like more specific things, like a specific email that you sent or like specific text. Like it might be interesting, and then you don't have to like put your profile in the project too. But
That's a good point. Thank you.
yeah.
No, I have another one. I don't know if we have time to like look at both of them, but
we just have like a minute left.
yeah. Well, this was quickly, like this is the one that we kind of looked at last time.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and I just added like a person in the window that if I were to continue with this version, I would make that a picture of myself and like glitch it out. That was just kind of the inspiration. And then I was gonna maybe add other windows besides just like the Zoom stuff in the background. So I'm still debating between the two.
I think this is working.
Okay.
I guess another thought is like, does the window pane itself, like the glass itself, need to be like the depth? Does that depth need to be where all of your content is necessarily, like a computer screen? Or because we're looking out a window, could those layers of content be anywhere in the background, like out your window?
You mean like behind the glass?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know, right? Like, like in the background, I could see like a three windows of another house, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, you could kind of cheat and like just plop an image onto that and kind of make it look like it's, you know, in the distance. And then anything that's outside the window, just like you have, did you take this photo or?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's looking blurry. Because like you see the photo of yourself in the mirror, that's like way clearer.
That's a different image of myself in the mirror that I took like at a different time. So I could take just like a better picture of outside my window. Um,
Yeah, I don't know, maybe because it does look a little blurry.
it was
But
kind of dark on that side of the room, so I could add
um,
lighting.
the one thing I was gonna talk about is how um, you could alter how the content looks depending on how far like back in the Z plane you have it. So kind of like it's a physicalized window in space almost, so to speak.
Mhm.
So as the further you go back, you have like atmospheric kind of particles that dim the image right over, just like how the stuff back here looks a little faded. Well,
Yeah.
maybe I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking in terms of like creating some kind of depth towards the chaos, that is social media.
Originally I kind of wanted it to be like just all like on like I had all these tabs open almost like on my computer screen, and the only problem I had with like maybe distancing the images was like you couldn't really tell what they were. They got so like pixelated and blurry that I don't know if there's a way to like avoid that, but like if I made it really small, it was like I couldn't even see what was happening. So I don't know. That's just something I was struggling with.
Well, we have to keep continuing. I think hopefully we just have the two left, so we should have time. If that's the case. This is Sonics.
So my whole concept basically, I repeated this since last class, is basically just showing the lens of a female Black woman, that obviously the person holding the camera is not me, but I'm gonna get a camera and take a picture of, get someone to take a picture of me holding a camera, so it'll be better. But I wanted to flesh out the idea first. And when I asked for help in the last class, you told me to like try to embed stuff within the hand, so I tried to incorporate that. And at the same time I was just kind of like also having trouble in terms of just like knowing what to put, because you see how like in the trees there's stuff written in there, and in the grass it says bigotry and then homophobia and then capitalism. And then I'm having kind of like trouble figuring out if I want to do the words, because once again, like after seeing everyone else go and like kind of adapting things from what they were saying, I kind of like shying away from the idea of using like actual words. But if I do use the words, maybe like stretching them out and like playing with them in terms of just like the artistry of the words at all, and like maybe using photos instead of words to convey them what I mean. So I'm very, very, very open to like help, because I'm kind of struggling here. But the hand, I was like kind of thinking of like the stuff that I'm in hand will be like the positive stuff about being like all the things that I am, and then the thing in the lens, all these like bad things are kind of hiding in plain sight. I was gonna like put somebody like, I don't know, like a kid like eating ice cream amongst all the bad things like that kind of. So yeah.
So if you didn't like use the words, do you know like how you would convey like the messages, or are you still like teasing that out? Like
I don't like, I'm really like trying to sit down and figure it out, and it's just like I really don't know.
Yeah.
Like I was gonna do maybe like fade in, like I don't know, capitalism could be I don't know, like buildings, or just like general, like I don't know.
Yeah, I think initially the first thing that I'm catching is you're trying to have everything in the center be about bad things, but you have like a really pleasing, pleasant image.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of contradicting, I guess, to what you're trying to go for.
Yeah, because my idea is kind of like all the bad things that are going on in the world are kind of hiding in plain sight, as in like they're trying to show you all these like good things when it's like actually awful things going, kind of like similar. I can't remember the person's name who made the billboard one. Like all the billboards supposed to be like flashy and great, but it's actually, if you really think about it, all these things are not really good for us as people. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm like even making any sense.
Maybe like in the lens, like someone could be, I don't know, like wearing a mask that has like good things on it, but or like as they're taking it off, there's like bad things like hidden behind it. Maybe that could be like a way to show it in a different way, so you don't have to use like this image, or if you, I don't know. I don't really know how you would symbolize it, but
Yeah, I do almost think that you're almost being too limiting, like too critical, because it is a pretty complicated thing you're trying to show. Because you can obviously find a lot of like bad images to then compile and overlay and create meaning through, through just having a lot of bad images that are contrasting the good, and that would have a lot of meaning in itself.
True.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on this? In terms of the words, like if you were to keep the words, one consideration could be to use the type itself as a selection point, and then to then cut out content from another image, or use like a is it a vector mask? No, it wasn't a vector mask. I'm blanking on the word. The second mask type that we tried.
The layer mask?
No, it was after the layer mask.
The clipping mask?
Clipping, thank you, yeah. Or use that clipping mask and put type on, or images on to type, and then that could be one way to then associate some form of, say, capitalism with images, and then that can be blended into the background somehow as well. But it wouldn't be so drastic that we're like focusing on just the word itself, but also like what you're like symbolizing through the imagery as well, or you could use the text itself to be like the reality of what's going on, like homophobia, but then have an example where in public there's homophobia going on, but it doesn't, somebody's trying to hide it as it's not, this homophobic moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you could use an image that's directly like opposing it, but you're calling it out with the type.
Yeah.
That might be a way to kind of get at what you're trying to go for.
Thank you.
That's about the best I can come up with.
Thank you.
And then we have Eric. So we have a couple minutes, or we have a minute left, but
yeah. So it's basically kind of a reflection on trying to look back at the time and trying to live in the moment, be thankful for the time that you have, and don't take it for granted. This photo doesn't do it complete justice because this is only one part of it at the moment. This is kind of the in the past, and so taking the advice of making it, trying to be a little bit more black and white and merging a clock in the background and stuff like that, I feel tries to make that feel a little bit more in the past, dreamlike sort of thing, but trying to more so focus on the feeling of time was lost and I didn't take advantage of it sort of thing.
I just have a quick question. Did you just like do the outline just to make it seem like just to make you look more out of place, or?
Yeah, so what I wanted to do is kind of highlight myself and also take myself out of the scene in a way, just to kind of play around. Like, I'm not exactly sure if I wanted to keep that or not, but kind of just trying to see like what would happen if I separated myself from the scene a little bit more to kind of further emphasize the point of not being there in the moment sort of thing.
I think it looks cool.
I think it might be, I don't know if you remove the color or not from the background, but I would almost think like one way you could do that from removing yourself would be to remove the color from yourself. Be black and white on just your body.
So kind of reverse it in a way, so have like the background be in color, but only myself be
maybe
black and white.
Yeah, maybe, because right now you're highlighting yourself.
Right. I could play around with that.
One thought I was thinking about is if you were to take the center of the clock and move the center of the clock to like the top corner up here, you could then have like where it radiates out. Oops. You know, along that ceiling.
Right.
As a selection area to then have another piece of content that's kind of like in the clock, but then you can fade it or blend it in some way. And then same thing with the other surfaces, right? You can kind of utilize that as like a different realm of drawing, you know, another canvas area. If you kind of segregate, is that the right word? I guess not, maybe not. Separate the different areas. But then like you don't necessarily have to have that separate content like spanning over the whole thing. You could like cut out the door and it's only on the wall, or just trying to think of like having the clock not be so overwhelming.
Right.
Anybody have any last components? I know we're running a couple minutes over.
We could do it next time if you want, but you forgot mine.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of going top to bottom.
It's all good.
So I might have skipped over yours or something. Okay, so for the weekend, you guys want to make sure you get your current image on the Facebook page. And then I also have like all of the information about, you know, guidelines on the project page, like how you should think about typing up your feedback and updating your statement if you haven't really done that. So make sure you kind of get a couple of comments to other people by Friday night. And then you have the weekend to do as much updating as you can. and Monday will be the last day in class. And, we always have office hours, but last in class day where we're going to have it open for a work session where you guys can get some help with me. I'll kind of be checking in. And then we're going to go on to the next project. So you'll still have like another week after that to work. I'm just saying like Monday's the last in class day. So it'd really be good to take kind of feedback while it's fresh and edit stuff. So you have something new to have to show and work on Monday. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah. So the email link you sent to join the Facebook group, it doesn't do anything for me. All it does is it brings me to my home, the home
Yeah,
feed.
it doesn't work for everybody because not everybody uses their email for Facebook. And I think that's just why. I just did it as a preliminary, like it might help some people, but there's a link on our main site and a link on the schedule. Either of those will go to the page and then you could request access.
Okay.
Yep. And then I'll be accepting everybody that sends it to me here. And I think I wanted you guys to have everybody post stuff by, within a few hours today. So it's fairly quick since you guys are the second class, but it only takes a few minutes. So hopefully if you don't have another class right now, you can knock it out. Otherwise I left a couple, like an hour if you have another class. So cool. Thanks guys. It was pretty smooth today, and I'll see you on Monday.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.